The Tears of Gaia by Redback Spino. Chapter 15 Breakfast with a King. As the small platoon of creatures descended from the illuminated tree stump, Fluttershy, Rainbow Dash, Applejack, and Gordon could not help but look on and about in wonder at the forest to surround them. Back in Equestria, the only major forests that they had seen were the white-tailed woods, which, while very pretty, were rather small, and the dark and foreboding of a free forest, which few dared to enter alone, and Gordon, ever a mountain-dwelling griffin, had seldom seen forests at all. Far above their heads, the silvery white trees stretched up hundreds of meters, and all around them were nothing but massive trunks, linked together by shimmering white walkways and staircases. "If Twilight could see where we are now," Rainbow Dash whispered in awe. Applejack and Gordon could only nod in silent agreement. Oakwood led the way as they walked along the dirt road on the forest floor, his massive, glowing antlers lighting the way ahead. As the other ponies huddled together in the middle of the column, Fluttershy walked slightly ahead, alongside Yarrow and Marigold. Young Buck could not help but grin at Fluttershy's stun-struck expression. "I take it you like what you see?" he asked. The Pegasus nodded.
It's beautiful. What kind of trees are those? I've never seen them before."
"A rather special tree, of our own creation," Marigold replied. "We call them the Sylvain Ivrian, which translates to silver wood in your language."
"They're amazing. How old are they?"
"They were grown by the first stag who ever lived here, thousands of years ago," replied Yarrow. As they passed a significantly smaller and younger tree, Fluttershy reached out forehoof. The bark of the tree was hard and slightly cold, almost like they were carved from massive white stones, but she still felt an odd sensation emanating from the trees, feeling somehow welcoming and intimidating at the same time, as if to say, "You are welcome here, but do not mess with us." Looking ahead, she squinted through the darkness of the trees at the golden, yellowish glow in the distance ahead.
"What's that? The light up ahead?"
she asked. "That is our destination, little pony," Oakwood replied. For a few minutes the walk continued in relative silence, save for the muted footsteps of the group and the occasional gasps of wonder from their four guests as something else caught their eyes. Every so often they could see figures on the walkways above, watching them with curious eyes. Most were dressed in the familiar green and brown tunics that the rescue group were wearing, though a few wore long robes or flowing dresses instead, still in the earthly browns and greens. But, despite their rustic color schemes, everything looked clean and well kept and very much unspoiled. Suddenly, a voice from above broke the silence. A high, wispy voice, singing out something in the strange, ethereal language of the deer folk. The ponies and Gordon looked around for the source of the singing, but could see nothing. On the other side, other voices echoed the same words, and more joined in the song, traveled out ahead of them and into the distance, toward the source of the golden glow. "Yearly break on them all, roll the roll and hang them all." "What do you suppose that's all about?" Rainbow whispered to Applejack. The farm pony simply shrugged. "No idea. Very pretty to listen, though," Applejack replied. "No need to be alarmed," Yarrow assured them. "They are just signaling our arrival, passing on the message. It's not often we get guests such as yourselves in our forests." "I had no idea ponies lived this far from Equestria," Margot added. "Actually, we are from Equestria," Applejack replied. Yarrow looked back with curiosity. "Really? Then what are you doing this far south?" Now, Yarrow, don't pester them," Oakwood interjected, his deep voice echoing among the trees. "I'm guessing you four are tired." The three ponies and Griffith nodded. "Well, it's only a little further, and we'll be at the capital of Servatus. Some hot food, a warm bed, and a safe haven to rest." "You heavy and hot food!" Rainbow called from the middle of the pack. The deer surrounding them could not help but laugh as she took to the air and flew ahead. Moments later, she flew back, sheepishly rubbing the back of her neck. "Yeah, which way?" "Straight ahead, toward the light," Oakwood replied with a grin. "But you'd better stick with us. It's easy to get lost in here, you know." Rainbow nodded, and instead took to hovering above the pack. Feels good to stretch my wings again. It's been way too long since I flew last." Gordon stretched his wings too, flapping up to her height. "Mind if I join you?" Rainbow Dash grinned, and the two began flying around, circling and swooping over each other in the cool, still air. The pack below, and a few curious deer folk on the lower platforms of the trees, watched in wonder as the two looped and rolled through the air. But about 10 minutes later, both Gordon and Rainbow Dash slowly sunk back down to the ground, As the group cleared the last row of trees and saw the source of the glow, Yarrow could hardly resist a proud grin as he saw the dumbstruck expressions on their guests' faces. In the center of the forest was a clearing, well over a mile across. In the center of the clearing stood the largest tree any of them had ever nearly seen. Nearly 5 times as thick as any of the other silver trees in the forest, it stretched into the evening sky, nearly piercing the clouds above. Massive roots, each as big as a train tunnel, snaked in out all directions from the base of the trunk, and high above, hundreds of branches pointed out like long, spindly fingers. All around the trunk and branches were walkways, staircases, and bridges, connecting each other together large platforms built into the branches and the sides of tree trunks like ledges, as well as bridging the gap from the enormous tree and others around it. Deer folk of all shapes and sizes could be seen out and about on the platforms, traveling along the walkways, making daring leaps between particularly close ledges, going in and out of white and brown buildings that were constructed on the platforms. The source of the golden glow was obvious now as well. While the rest of the trees and savannas were that ethereal glowing silver, this incomprehensibly large tree almost seemed normal, except for the bright golden lines that ran up and down the tree trunks and among the branches, to the tips where they shone out like golden flames. And far above them all, settled at the very top branches of the tree, was a single platform, nearly an acre in width. But anything built upon the platform was obscured by thick boughs of golden leaves that only grew on the highest branches of the tree. Oakwood turned around and proudly held his forehoof into sight. "The golden capital of Ostare! You will be staying there." But the four could not respond. They were rooted to the spot, picking their jaws off the ground, by the side of the tree that stood before them. Majestic, shining, colossal. It was unlike any of them had ever seen. A good 20 minutes of walking later, the four found themselves entering a small cottage in one of the highest platforms of Ostare. It was a medium-sized platform, with many small houses and buildings scattered across it. A single walkway connected to the side of the platform, which merged with a small road that led to the center, where it terminated in a large circle of passive road, around which the houses were built. Almost I could imagine that was probably their equivalent of a suburban cul-de-sac. "Now, you will be sleeping here tonight," Yarrow said as he led them into the doors. It was very simple on the inside. A small living room with 3 couches surrounding a low table, and the doors on the side led to individual bedrooms, and a bathroom through a door on the far end. Everything seemed carved out of the silvery wood of the surrounding trees. On the table were 4 small bowls, filled with steaming brown soup, with a farl of bread beside it. "Food!" Before anybody could say anything, Rainbow Dash was upon the food in a flash, munching on her loaf of bread and eagerly slurping down the soup. "Oh man, this stuff is delicious!" "Oh come on, farl is not a real word." "Oh look, farl is a real word." "Well, you know." "Thank you kindly for this," Applejack said as he joined Rainbow at the table. "We really can't thank you all enough." Yarrow smiled and nodded. "No thanks are necessary, friends." "Oh, come on now! No need to be modest. If it weren't for you and your friends, we'd all still be stuck in that fort," she replied. Rainbow nodded as she put down her bowl. "All right, Humpty. Yeah, I mean, we'd be totally able to escape on our own, but you guys sure saved us a lot of trouble." Gordon sat down on the third couch without a word, simply nodding his thanks.
Thank you so much, Yarrow.
Farsight said sincerely.
I really don't like to think what might have happened if you never showed up.
"Neither do I, Fluttershy," Yarrow replied. "Now get some rest. You'll be safe here. Even when the Phantom do breach our forest's border, they'll never make it this far in." "The Phantom?" Dash tilted her head in confusion. "The yellow-eyed monsters. The Blight, I think you called them." Yarrow paused and his ponies nodded. "Well, we are as far away from them, so don't worry. Now, I will return in the morning. The White Hart has requested that you join him for breakfast, and I'll escort you there. Until then, I bid you good night." Applejack looked up from her food. "The White Hart? Who's he?" Young Deer paused as he turned to leave. "Ah, that's right. We haven't told you about him yet. The White Hart is the Lord of the Forest, our ruler." Farsight daintily sipped her bowls too.
But, well, why does he want to meet us?
"No idea." Yarrow shrugged. "I suppose he's just interested in having newcomers. Especially you, Gordon." Gordon looked up from the sound of his name, a few crumbs of bread still clinging to his brick. "Why me?" "Because there's one thing rarer than a stranger entering our land. It is a griffin entering our land." "Well, these seriously are missing out. Well, this tree's this massive, I bet there be plenty of places to perch, hey, Gordon?" Applejack said, tearing into her bread. She stopped chewing a moment, however, as she heard no reply from the young griffin. She saw him give a half-hearted nod, but it did not conceal the look of unease on Gorin's face. Luckily for them, Yarrow was still there to break the silence. Well, I'll leave you four to get some rest. I'll come by to pick you up tomorrow morning for breakfast. Until then, lo fait. And with those last dearest words, Yarrow gave one final bow and closed the door with a shimmer of his antlers. Rainbow mopped up the last of her soup with a chunk of bread before popping in her mouth. This stuff is delicious! I wonder what's in it. Yeah, I'm not saying if I could talk with one of the cooks or something. I reckon a dish like this will go down well back home. Applejack agreed, her voice trailing off at the mention of home. Farsight sighed wistfully as, for the first time as she was captured by the Blythings, she found herself thinking of her little cottage in Ponyville.
Home, she mumbled. Feels like it's been years since we were in Ponyville.
I sure hope everybody's all right back on the farm, Applejack said. Farsight stared down at the last few dregs of soup left in the bowl before her.
And all my little animal friends. I hope they're managing fine without me.
Hearing the first roaring sniffles from the little Pegasus, Rainbow Dash cheerfully flipped over to Firesight's couch, sat beside her, draping a wing over her shoulders. Rainbow nudged her gently. Hey, come on, Fluttershy. They're probably doing fine. I'm sure of it. They're tough bunch. They can take care of themselves. The cream-colored Pegasus wiped her eyes with a hoof.
I guess so.
I mean, you said so yourself about how they keep finding where you keep the food. They're probably fast asleep after an awesome meal right now.
That does sound like them,
Firesight said with a smile. It lasted a few seconds before falling again.
I still miss them, though.
She squeaked slightly in surprise as he felt Rainbow Dash's forelegs wrap around her in a gentle hug. Don't worry, Fluttershy. We'll find the others and get back to Ponyville before you know it. Suddenly, Fluttershy raised her hopes and hugged back.
Thank you, Rainbow Dash. You always seem to know just what to say,
she said with a smile returning to her lips. Yeah, Applejack added with a smirk. You might try to come off all rough and tough, but you can be real salty when you want to. Oh, shut up, farm girl, Rainbow replied, unable to keep the chuckle from her voice, before returning to her meal. As the four of them ate, Applejack could not help but notice Gordon's silence, as well as his restless appearance. Hey, Gordon, you all right? You seem a little, I don't know, on edge.
You don't need to worry, Gordon,
Fireside said.
You heard what Yarrow and the others said. We're safe as long as we're here. Those monsters can't get to us.
It's not the monsters I'm worried about, Gordon said with a frown. Then, what's up? Rainbow asked. It's these deer, he replied. I don't know, I guess I'm just not that comfortable around them as you three. Fireside looked down quizzically.
Why is that? I mean, they seem really nice, don't they?
Gordon sighed as he leaned back in his chair. Yeah, I suppose so. But the thing is, you know how that guy said that they rarely get griffins here? Well, the reason for that is, well, let's just say griffins and deer folk have never really been on good terms. Elzak nodded. I do remember Twilight saying something about that back at Camelot. Why is that? So that's what's bothering you? He nodded. As Rainbow mopped up the last of her soup with a slice of bread, he asked, But why exactly? Why exactly don't deer and griffins like each other? I'll be honest, I'm not sure of the details. There's just been some sort of grudge between our races for centuries. I don't know if any bird remembers why. Though if I were to guess, I say it's because our cultures clash so much. Clash how exactly? Well, the old myth is that we griffins are sort of a warrior culture. We use fighting as a way to solve all our problems, he explained. That's just what it is, a myth. We're not warriors, we're industrialists, builders. Whenever you have some sort of big technological advance in the world, 9 times out of 10, it was a griffin who came up with it. We're one of the few races who have hands for holding tools, and are smart enough to use them. So we build, and we design, and we invent new things to help advance civilization. And, well, it just so happens that what we're best at are making weapons. Gordon got looked up out of his chair, going over to the window. Resting his chin in his claws, he looked out the window into the forest below. But then look at the deer folk. They live in tree houses, never daring to go past their borders, preferring magic over tech, and refusing to share their powers with others. And the way they keep slipping in and out of deer is, you never know what they're saying. You could see how they wouldn't like us griffins that much. Fireside swung him at the window.
Well, I suppose I can see where you're coming from. Still, haven't they ever tried to get along?
Gordon chuckled humorously. A few times. But both sides' politicians are stubborn. Neither side wants to admit that the other has a point. Plus, deer folk and griffins do have a bit of a turbulent history. There's never been an all-out war, but there have been a couple of skirmishes in the past. And what about you? Applejack asked. What side are you on? I don't know, Horn said with sighing resignation. I mean, I can see where both sides are coming from, but I feel like I'd be abandoning my own kind if I sided with the deer folk. Rainbow got up and stretched her limbs. Ugh. Well, hopefully it won't keep you up tonight. I don't know about you guys, but I'm ready for a long, comfy sleep. Griffin and the ponies nodded. Tying their place up, the four of them said their goodnights and snuggled down to their individual beds. Within a matter of minutes, the house was filled with the sounds of snoring, mingling with the sounds of the forest outside. As Applejack rolled over in her bed, she felt the warmth of the morning sun in her face and cracked her eyes open. The sunlight streamed through the windows of the bedroom, casting on golden pools on the floor, its brightness only magnified by the pale color of the walls and the floor of the house, and the subtle glow of the silvery trees outside. Ugh. Boy, Hattie, I haven't slept that well in days! She murmured to herself as she rubbed to sleep from her eyes. Tossing aside the crisp white blanket, she lowered herself to the floor and stretched her legs. The bed seemed to have been built for a deer, since it seemed to be a further drop down to the floor, likely accompanying their longer legs. One quick rejuvenating shower later, Applejack plopped her head back on her head and dried herself off on a white fluffy towel, the same gleaming white as the bedsheets and curtains. That seemed to glow in the sunlight. When she returned, she found Rainbow Dash, Fluttershy, and Gordon in the lounge, stretching their limbs and rubbing their eyes and their hungry bellies.
Good morning, Applejack. Did you sleep well?
Said Fluttershy. Applejack nodded. Like a log, Fluttershy. It's nice to sleep in a proper bed again. You got that right, Rainbow Dash agreed. Still not as comfy as a cloud, but it sure beats the ground. So, where's the shower? She added, pointing to Applejack's step mane. I nearly forgot how refreshing a morning shower could be. You all gotta try it for yourselves. Fluttershy nodded.
Oh, I know. I woke up earlier than the rest of you, so I thought I'd have a quick shower for myself. It feels wonderful.
Yeah, well, maybe I'll try it after breakfast, Rainbow replied. Speaking of which, where's that Yarrow guy? I thought he was supposed to be taking us to see this Whiteheart. Ah, glad to see you're all up. The four of them startled as they heard the voice coming from the doorway. Standing there was none other than Yarrow, a cheeky smile on his face. Sudad Miloanimin, he said, bowing his head slightly. I trust you four slept well.
Very well, thank you,
Fireside replied. So, you're here to take us to breakfast then? Applejack asked. Yarrow nodded. Indeed I am. Follow me, please. The White Hart awaits. With Yarrow in the lead, the group headed out into the massive platform that's built into the side of a tree. All around them, Ostera seemed to be waking up. Deer exited their cots and towers, walking along the stairs and walkways built into the enormous tree, and even in the distant trees surrounding the clearing, tiny figures could be seen milling about. Bucks went to their jobs. Does escorted the youngest fawns to school. On tall pedestals and ledges, particularly large stags stood still, silent as watchmen, looking for all the world like well-painted statues. Of all the deer about, they were the only ones dressed in any sort of armor, as opposed to the simple earth-colored tunics or robes that most of them rode. It was a curious, elegant form of plate armor, form-fitting and curved, with a vague look of leaves or waves done in golden and bronze plates, with silver trim around the hems. It consisted of barding around the withers and flanks, and a two-piece helmet that cuts down on the sides, to allow the helmet to fill around the antlers. Hey, Yarrow, who are those stags? Rainbow asked, as he pointed to one such stag who stood on the ledge beside the walkway as they crossed. The ones in armor. They look pretty important. Yarrow glanced at the stag, who nodded backly. Those are the Tyr, the elite guards of Yostea, some of our most powerful spellcasters. Even if we barely get intruders or invaders making a distance in the forest, it can't hurt to have some air security for the White Hart. As they put another Tyr on a ledge by the stairwell, Applejack saw that the stag was keeping an especially close eye on the four of them as they passed. Indeed, all around them, there were many deer folk who watched them as they passed, some with curiosity and intrigue, some with unease. It was obvious they were not used to outsiders, especially in the capital. After about 10 minutes walking up staircases and walkways, the four found themselves at the highest platform of the tree. At the top of the staircase was a large door that looked to be gilt from solid silver. On the other side stood the armored Tyr, who glared down at them with calculating eyes. This is as far as I go, friends, Yarrow said, stepping back. Just go straight through the doors, and you'll be fine at the White Hart Sanctuary. He'll probably be there to greet you. Giving one last nod of farewell, he hurried down the stairs again to the platform below. The four friends looked at the silver doorway with some apprehension. First I gulped.
Well, I guess we should go in.
Leading the way, she ascended the stairs towards the door, clearing her throat.
Hello? Can we go in, please? I think the White Heart is supposed to be expecting us.
Without so much as a twitch or a move of his head, the stag on the left of the door's antlers shimmered yellow and gold. The door swung open.
Oh! Thank you.
Firestag whispered to the Tieran, who nodded back, stone face. Together, the three ponies and Griffiths passed through the door, under the guard's watchful eyes. Inside, they found themselves on a completely flat platform, held up by the uppermost branches of a tree. The branches curved over the platform, forming a loose dome of branches and leaves, where the sunlight poked through the holes in the canopy. In the middle was a small lake, the waters completely still, with a round island in the center. On this island sat a single tree, its leafy boughs hanging over like a lopsided parasol. A sheet of white cloth lay on the grass under the hanging boughs, laden with silver and golden tableware, with a small woven basket on the side. On the island, its lone inhabitant, a single stag. He was quite unlike any deer the four of them had seen, standing nearly a head taller than any other deer, almost the same height as Celestia. He stooped by the side of the island, lapping the water from the lake. Unlike the earthy brown and red spectacled fur of his subjects, this stag's fur was purest white, and his enormous antlers were a strange silvery color. A thin gray beard hung from his chin, hung up by a string. He was clad in simple green robe, golden trim around the collar, a turquoise sash around his waist, and on his brow sat a simple crown, which was nearly more than nothing than a band of gold, with a single teardrop shape on the front, and a strange script going around the band in some unknown alphabet. "Oh, sweet Celestia is the great spirit of forest from Princess Monoke!" As they apprehensively approached the circular lake, the stag raised his head, ears perked up as he heard it approach. As he saw the four, he smiled a broad, welcoming smile. "Oh, there you are," he called in a strange voice, not entirely masculine or feminine. Are you the White Heart?" Applejack called, tentatively stepping forward. "It is I," he replied, bowing low. "Il suis non fin. Welcome to my humble home." The four bowed respectfully back. "Won't you join me for some breakfast?" the White Heart asked, standing on the bank of his lake. As they nodded silently and approached the lake, unsure exactly how to reach the island. Did he have to jump? Was there some hidden crossing? Did he just have to wade through the water? As if answering their unasked question, there was a slight rippling on the surface of the lake, as 5 broad, flat stones rose up from the lake bed, in a straight line from the bank to the island. They crossed these stepping stones and sat down on the white blanket. The Heart joined them, and with a shimmer of his massive antlers, plates, cups, and cutlery began flying out of the basket beside him, as well as platters laden with a loaf of white bread, bowls of fruit, yogurt, nuts, strawberries, flowers, and a small variety of drinks, all of which came to the middle of the basket, while the plates and cutlery laid themselves before each of the diners. "Enjoy," the White Heart said cheerfully, as he helped himself to the bread and fruit. He filled his wooden cup with steamy, fragrant tea from a small teapot. Needing no second bidding, the 4 guests eagerly dug into the food, which was a simple but undeniably delicious filling. Even Applejack, with her mighty appetite, found herself somehow sated after only a few apples and some bread and jam. As he poured himself a cup of apple juice, she glanced at her surroundings, then back to the food, confusion creeping into her mind. Whiteheart noticed her slightly troubled expression. "Something troubling you, miss?" Applejack put down the jug. "Oh, that's right! I'm all right. We came up here to eat your fruit and don't even introduce ourselves. My name's Applejack, sir, and I'm Rainbow Dash."
My name is Fluttershy. It's a pleasure to meet you,
she said politely. "And the pleasure is all mine, friends," Whiteheart replied. "So, do tell, Applejack, what is the matter? Is the food not to your liking?" "Oh, no, nothing like that, sir," Applejack sputtered. "This food's just about the tastiest I've eaten in a long time. And my feeling, too, but it's, well..." "You were expecting that breakfast with a king would be a little more grand?" the White Heart suggested, with a knowing smile. The farm nodded seriously. "Hell yeah, I guess so." "She does have a point, though, sir," Rainbow Dash added. "No disrespect meant, but when I think breakfast of royalty, I don't exactly think of a picnic by the lake." The stag nodded. "I understand, and it would be lying if I said that I had never indulged in the occasional extravagant banquet. But When I'm eating on my own, I like to keep things simple. If I had known sooner we would have guests, I would have had something prepared.
Oh no, there's no need for that,
replied Fluttershy.
This is just fine. This is the kind of breakfast I have on a normal day anyway.
And what about you, young sir? Twilight said, turning to Gordon. I do not believe we've been introduced. Indeed, Gordon had remained silent throughout the whole meal. Swallowing a handful of bread, he replied, Denise Gordon, son of Gideon, the king of Thysia. And is the breakfast to your liking? I assume, being royalty yourself, you would be used to more extravagant meals than this. Yeah, that's about right, Gordon replied. Back in my hometown, the nobles and royalty all dine together. And breakfast can sometimes go on so long, by the time we're done, it's almost time for lunch. The White Tart suddenly snorted, and Stifle chuckled at this, before he regained composure and motioned for Gordon to continue. But when this is the first proper meal I've had in weeks, I'm in no position to complain. It's not often that a deer would show a griffin this kind of hospitality. Or, so I've heard anyways. The griffin added, Sadly, you have heard correctly. The White Hart replied, Relations between our two races have been tense at best. But in my eyes, you are a guest first and a griffin second. So please, do not feel uneasy during your stay. Well, that's real nice of you to offer, Benel, but we can't stay. All eyes turned to Rainbow Dash, who finished her breakfast and was just getting up. What do you mean? The White Hart asked. The Pegasus frowned. Look, Your Majesty, I really do appreciate everything your folk have done for us, but we can't stay here. We gotta find our friends!
Rainbow Dash?
Fluttershy tried to interject, but Whiteheart stopped her. Your friends? You mean to say that there are more of you out here in these lands? He asked. When the ponies nodded, Whiteheart smiled and slid the knots. That is not what I hoped to hear. Perhaps you could tell me exactly what led you to find yourself so far away from Equestria? Gordon nodded. Yeah, to be honest, you never exactly told me what you were doing here either. I'd be interested to hear it. The ponies looked uneasy to each other. Just what could they say? On the one hoof, these deers had indeed saved their lives, and given them a safe haven from a blight. And Gordon seemed trustworthy enough. On the other hoof, just how much could they tell? The three ponies huddled together for a moment, as Gordon and Whiteheart watched in silence. What do you think? Rainbow whispered. I guess we got no choice, Applejack said. Not like we can refuse royalty, right? But Applejack, Rainbow whispered, we barely know these guys. You really think we should tell them?
I think so,
replied Fluttershy.
They've been so nice so far, and they don't seem like to blight any more than we do. I think we can trust them.
Rainbow Dash, however, was not convinced. But what about, it? Do you think we can really tell them about it? It's not like they could try to steal it from us, Applejack said for a shrug. Wherever it is, it's not far away from us, that's for sure. Yeah, I guess you got a point there. Okay, Applejack, you're the honest one. You tell them. Do not keep me in suspense, dear ponies, the heart said from behind him. Let us hear your story. The huddle broke, and Applejack stepped forward. Sorry. Alright, we'll tell you everything, but could you keep whatever we tell just between the five of us? Gordon the Stag nodded. So, where do we begin? Well, it all started back in Ponyville, which is the town where we came from. And so, Applejack, when we came to assistance from Rainbow Dash and Fluttershy, told the Griffin and the Heart everything. From Twilight's discovery of the Star Scrolls to Birda's notes, to how they started their journey from Canterlot, heading north towards the Crystal Mountains. Of their first encounter with the Blight on the plains at night, and how they took shelter with the mysterious pony Roanoke. Of how they followed Roanoke's riddle through the forest, their encounters with the Kelpie and the Grey Ones. Of how they met up with Star Scroll the Bearded, resurrected from the dead to help them in their quest. So he told of their hike through the Crystal Mountains, until they reached the Shard, and were confronted by Tharos the Dragon. How he took them to the mysterious realms where the tears were hidden, the gargantuan planet-sized monster that bore down upon them as they fled their treasure. The aerial battle of the Blight and their subsequent kidnapping. Finally, the rescue from Maud Hill by Yarrow and his team. Throughout the whole retelling, Gordon felt his admiration for the ponies growing with every word. The White Hart, meanwhile, also sat with rapt attention, but his calms failed no betrayal as he listened, only nodding and understanding every now and then. Simply put, they watched the last few videos. And then the dear browse here, and, well, here we are. Applejack finished. By the time her story was at an end, the morning had worn on considerably, and the sun shone high in the sky above their heads, beams of light piercing through the cavity of the branches. She sat down with her friends, as Gordon and Whiteheart sat silent. still processing the story that he had just been told. Well, that's one heck of an adventure you've been on, Corin said weakly. It's impressive you made it this far, even though you've, lost some friends on the way. First, I shook her head.
Well, it is painful not knowing what happened to them, but I'm not sure. I feel that the others are still alive, and, well, I can't really explain. I just know it.
What interests me more is your encounters with the Final, Lyra said. Not to mention that artifact of yours, the Tears of Gaia. You say these creatures were following you? Yeah, we ran into them first on the plains up in northern Equestria. Ever since then, they've been following us, and as soon as we've had the tears, they ambushed us. The heart frowned. That is disconcerting. I think a connection between your search for the tears and the blight pursuing you would not be too far-fetched of an assumption. Rainbow Dash nodded. Yeah, it did seem like they were coming after us for it. The heart fell silent, closing his eyes in thought a moment. That is not good, he muttered, getting up and crossing the stepping stones, linking his island to the rest of the sanctuary. Sir? Applejack said, following him across the lake. Fireside, Rainbow, and Gordon followed after her. The four attentively approached the heart. He glanced at them at the corner of his eye, then stared back to the walls of branches that surrounded the room. As his horns shimmered with magic, and the branches suddenly sprung to life, writhing and wriggling almost like tentacles, they parted, leaving an opening in the branches that looked down on the rest of the Ostia, and sprawled out among the branches below. Look at this city, friends, he said in a low voice. Look at my people. Tell me, what do you see? The four stood close to the opening, looking down at the city. Nothing seemed out of the ordinary or unusual. It looks like a peaceful city of deer folk, sir, Gordon replied. With a sigh, the Whiteheart replied, An illusion, I'm afraid. This city, indeed, all of Savadas, are not quite as peaceful as you may imagine. How so? Because, little ponies, while the city may look calm and peaceful to the unsuspecting eye, the truth is, we deer folk are at war. He stooped low, so his head was level with theirs. We appear calm and collected, simply because that is the nature of our race. But for over a year now, we have been in the midst of a war with the Phantom. Rainbow squinted her eyes, peering down at the thousands of deer folk milling on the walkways and platforms below. But how? Apart from those guards around the palace, I don't really see any soldiers. Oh, but you do, he replied. The entire city, indeed, the entire forest is filled with thousands of them. For the day they reach maturity, every deer is expected to come to the aid of the kingdom in times of war when summoned. Stags and does, young and old, they are all soldiers. But what about armor and weapons and stuff? Rainbow asked. Doesn't that get expensive? The Whiteheart shook his head. Only the Tyran have armor, since they protect the welfare of our capital, and therefore have top priority, and with magic like ours, we have little need for physical weapons. Ironic, isn't it? Of all the species in the world, one would never expect that placid, mysterious deer folk would be made up entirely of warriors. Gordon snorted derisively at these words. Either Whiteheart did not hear them, or he chose not to respond. But for the last few months, both us and the Fainum have been in deadlock. Neither side has the power to take the other face to face. So while we've been sending out small parties of soldiers to exploit weak points and gain intelligence, we have not had the strength for an all-out assault on our forces. And neither do they. Which is why the news about the tears is so concerning to me. If they gained access to that much power, I hate to think what they could do with it. It's a dangerous treasure, even on the most responsible of hooves. Fireside raised a hoof.
You sound like you already knew about the tears.
I did know, he replied. I hate to brag, but we deer folk were among the first species that were written of in the Tihatu and Minui. Applejack raised an eyebrow. The what now? The first writing. When beings you refer to in your story as the others first created our world and life as we knew it. He continued. He spoke, he returned to this island and sat down, the ponies and Curran following. You refer to those beings as alicorns, but in our tongue they are the Ainu, the Holy Ones. When they created life on our world, we deer folk were the first species to be created, and I was the first of the deer folk. Fireside's eyes grew with amazement.
You were the first deer? So, you're the one who created this forest then?
He nodded. It seems some pony has told you of the legends of our trees, then. Indeed, I was the creator of Savadas, and I know the strength of the Finum all too well. The ponies could not see it, but a single tear rolled down Whiteheart's cheek as he recounted memory. However, they could hear the single slightest hot scent of a sob in his voice as he spoke.
Sir,
Fluttershy whispered, tentatively placing a hoof on Whiteheart's broad shoulder.
are you okay?
The stag raised his head, gazing straight into the canopy above. Taking a deep breath, he turned and smiled at Pegasus. I am fine. Thank you, Fluttershy. But more to the point, I implore that the four of you do not leave Servaas just yet. Why not? Rainbow asked. Because out there, the Blight are amassing. My scouts have reported their movements all across the land, and if what say is true, they've even reached as far as Equestria. He replied, they've already tried to use you to get to the Tears, and who knows what they would do to you if they got their chance again. So please, stay with us. But what about our friends? Rainbow cried. They're out there somewhere too! So he's right. Are we supposed to just sit on our ropes and do nothing? Applejack added.
Girls, please.
Fireside implored, but found herself interrupted as heart raced a hoof. She does have a point, and I promise you, if my scouts do find your friends, then their safe escort to Servadas shall become their top priority. And as Fireside said, if they have been captured, we would know it. If they have, the Blights would have the Tears by now, and would be bearing down upon us unforced. Rainbow sat back down as the Karen argument sunk in. As much as he hated to admit it, he did have a point. All right, I guess we can stay. Your loyalty and concern for your friends is admirable, Rainbow Dash. The Heart replied, you four are all welcome to what Auster has to offer. You have free reign to explore the rest of Servadas as you see fit. Though I insist for your own safety, you have some of my deer to accompany you if you leave the capital. It's easy to get lost in the forest. I guess we could have Yarrow and his pals come with us, if that happens, Applejack replied. He smiled. Excellent. I won't keep you four any longer. Feel free to explore my kingdom to your heart's content. If you wish to speak to me, do not hesitate to visit. With that, he bowed low to the four and escorted them to the doorway in the back to the upper platforms of Auster. As he exited the bow and returned left, Whiteheart spoke one more time. Oh, and Gordon. Griffin turned. I know that the relationships between deerfolk and griffins are frosty at best, but you are as welcome as our pony friends. If anyone acts as hopelessly hostile towards you because of this, rest assured they will have me to answer to. I will. Thank you. Gordon replied stiffly. Very good. Enjoy your stay. Harthon Giretsa Alfea. The stag smiled one more time, before closing the doorway behind him, leaving the four on the stairway. Clacking the hooves on the floor, heralded the approach of Yarrow once again. Ah, excellent. You're back. So, friends, how did it go? He asked with a smile. Applejack waved to him. Howdy, Yarrow! Well, we're all right, I guess. Well, we had breakfast with him. He asked about us, who we are, where we came from, that kind of stuff.
And he asked us to stay Servadas.
Fireside added.
He said it was too dangerous to head back outside the forest for now.
Yarrow nodded. Well, he'd be right. The Finum are up to something out there, so it's best you stay with us until it's safe to travel again. Well then, Rainbow Dash said, taking the ear once more. We better get to know this place if we're staying here. How about a tour, Yarrow? The young stag smiled. I'd be happy to oblige. Follow me, friends. So Yarrow led the four friends down the stairs, back to the platforms of the city. He sailed in the various platforms and levels of the tree, what could be found on each one. Fireside found herself musing more on what Whiteheart said to them, or how he said it to them.
Excuse me, Yarrow?
He stopped as he led them through a less populated area. Something wrong, Fluttershy. So he cut the floor with a hoof as he spoke.
I was just thinking about something that Whiteheart said to us. He was talking about how he was, the first deer, and how he created Servadas, but it almost sounded like he was sad when he mentioned it. Did something happen then?
Yarrow's permanent grin sagged as he understood. Yes, well, rather, he would be when talking when he did. You see, the reason he created Servadas as a home for deerfolk was, well, according to our legends, because the original home of the deerfolk was lost. We don't know a lot about it ourselves, and he refused to go into detail about it. What happened? Applejack asked. Well, we have an old song that tells the story. Would you mind if I,
Oh no, please. Go right ahead.
Yarrow nodded. He cleared his throat, He sang in a slightly quavering, but still very beautiful voice.
From east he came, the elder heart, the Anya son, lamenting for his ancient home, a land long gone. At his halls they came to rest, deep in a glade. He raised his head as he sang, the realm was made. O Servatus! Of leaves he sang, and knives of gold and silver grew. Of wind he sang, the winds they came and through them blew. The sun shone down upon the new land, the timeless joy, his perfect child, no mortal force could dare destroy. O Servatus! Through like weeds we fade and fall, through the years, all demise and all downfall. He had no fears, the light may fade and shadows grow, and dark descends. He knew down was brightest still when night time